And so this is Alan. Um, what were we just talking
We were
about?
talking about marketing and
Oh, that's right.
and about reach and about trying to balance feelings between pushing forward
Mm,
and living in the stress of now.
mm.
And I think it's difficult. I never thought it'd be so hard. I feel like such a wuss. Like the things I've done that hurt physically, that like caused me pain
Yeah.
in my life, and yet I'm having a hard time with my emotions to be on camera.
Oh, that. Oh, that's because you're
Balancing.
new.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because soon you'll be jaded like me and you just won't care.
I've done this for 10, 15 years.
Oh,
I've done this a long time.
and it's still affecting you.
I did TV. I
You
was on a
did?
TV show. You know,
What
we don't
was
talk
it?
about this. It was a biker build-off show, and I was a judge. I was the Simon Cowell of a biker build-off show, as you can imagine.
And you're good. I saw you
Leno,
on Leno.
you were there.
Good. I was there, and you were just Bubba. I can't. I freeze. Like I lose words. You see a lot of jump cuts when I'm talking into the camera, because I lose words. I forget what things are called. Like I forget what a GoPro is called, and I'll have to pause. And it's just I don't know. I feel like Joe Biden or some shit. So you're in town because you did the hand built show,
Yes.
which I did the repair station at.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was pretty great. There was one repair that got away from me. That was this kid had me make buckles, like 2 buckles for his Klein tool bag, and I made buckles from scratch, and that nearly broke me. And I'm like, I'm never doing this repair station again. But I think Braxton says I said that every time. I say that every time.
Well, anything you do that's difficult, I say that every time. It's like, oh, this is the last time I do this.
Yeah.
The hand-built show, the first time I did it with some other guys, and they really screwed us. And it was like, they were like, my guys were like, we're going to do a show again? I was like, hell no, I will never do another show. And then you start to think about satisfaction part of it, and you soften, and then you do it again.
How long after the first one, after you vowed not to do it, how long was the second one after?
It was a year later. It took a year. But, because it was like MotoGP weekend. So it was like, I had a year, but I haven't told you this story. True story.
All right. Tell me.
Hand-built show. First one was done with some other guys that had a motorcycle show.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to do a show in Austin. I said, let's do it MotoGP weekend. They didn't want to do that, but we did it anyway. Because MotoGP in Austin is a big thing, right? It's international motorcycle crowd. Anyway, didn't go well. My crew did most of the work and got none of the love or the credit. And it was just, they were really, really upset. Anyway, show ends. We've packed everything back into the workshop, and someone says, hey, we're going to do a show again. You think we'll do that again? I was like, hell no, no way. And then I went, okay, yeah, all right, fine, we'll do it, but we'll call it the shit show, and the logo will be this, and it'll be SHIT, the superb, hand-built, irreverent testament to motorcycle show. But I was all joking. I was completely joking. It was all just, like negative talk. Like, screw this. And I don't care if it offends anyone. We're never going to do it again. And then time went on, and, you soften and you forget the stuff that really made you angry or that was really difficult. And then I was like, all right, we'll take the H out. We'll just do hand-built show. And I turned the middle finger into a fist for the logo with the torch in it. And that was it. And then it was like, all right, it's on. So now we're 11 later.
I have to say that to me, the thing about this show is when you're there, it's like you're in a room full of like, I don't know, however many, you have thousands of visitors, but at any given time, it's not crowded, but everybody in there is like one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can have those weird conversations with like and by one of us, I just mean people who make things,
Mm-hmm.
whether like Jay Leno curated your show. He makes comedy every weekend.
Right.
There's pinstripers. There's, there was me. I make things. I don't make motorcycles. You guys make
Yet.
motorcycles. The motorcycle people make motorcycles.
Yet.
But it's the same. It's the same mindset and world and relationship with reality,
Mm-hmm.
which is the thing that most annoys me about our time, is that a lot of people's ideas and positions on the world is from this. It's a virtual relationship with reality, and people go from there. Like people think that the world works like computers.
Yeah, what I was just thinking as you were saying that, I was like, imagine if you didn't make anything. I mean, like, if you didn't make a gift card, like, what's simple, right? Like, what if you didn't make anything?
Right.
If all you did
Not
was
even food when you're
yeah,
hungry.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Unless it's mercenary food because you're starving. Yeah.
It's ramen, right?
Yeah.
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 No, but yeah, if you don't feel satisfaction from creating anything at all in the physical realm, I mean, even sitting in front of Photoshop and making a logo, well, that's making something, right? That's making
Yes.
something, right?
Yes.
But what if
That's
you
a
don't even
maker.
do that? What if you just like,
I'll tell you
I
what.
can't fathom it.
I'll tell you what.
What?
Your wedding day is your one creative your
That's it.
creative exercise of your life, and that's why you torture everyone around you, because you have the power of
True.
the creativity and you're
Right.
blowing all this money,
Because of
and
obligation, they're
it's
going to
like
show
it's like you're a
up and
movie producer.
yeah.
Or
Which
what's
by
the
the way,
man version of
explains
that?
the reason that I didn't have a wedding. I
God
got
bless
married
you.
and just went to Europe, went to Norway, rode a motorcycle, exchanged vows, and done deal.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes,
like a
please.
wedding is not for. I feel like a wedding is for everyone else to show what you can do,
Yeah.
and I have no interest in that. I do that enough.
It's just a
Right?
non-romantic.
Yeah.
It's a big logistics project. I was at a wedding. I don't remember whose wedding it was.
So it was a while back.
Yeah. And I was thinking like, I don't want to be here. Isabel doesn't want to be here. And I was like, the only one who wants to be here is probably the bride, maybe. Maybe
Even
the
then,
groom. And
she's
I don't really think that
stressed.
they
Yeah.
want to do it either.
Mm.
And I think it wasn't. I think it was a gay wedding of my friends.
Yeah.
And they were just doing it to be, and everyone was there not for themselves, and that's what made it beautiful. I was like, oh, none of us are here for ourselves. Nobody wants to be here, and I love that about it.
Yeah.
I love that about it. Nobody wants to be
See,
here.
we had a party when we got back, like months later, but it was just for everybody. We everyone else wanted to celebrate it.
Yeah.
So in our backyard, we had some food, had a little DJ, and just hung out.
Yeah.
And that was fun. But even that was a little stressful.
My buddy Scott had like 4 weddings because just he had to do he was getting married in Europe, so that wouldn't hold up in America. So we had to do the one in the courthouse.
Yeah.
And so and then he had to, and not everyone could make it to either of those. So then he had the one like in Connecticut that was, or not in Connecticut, like in Marinick or something like that.
Yeah.
That was just like a big party for everyone.
Right.
And then he had the marriage that didn't work the first time. So we had 4, and there was like a group of us at the wedding who had done all 4. It wasn't very many people.
You went to all 4 of
Went
his
to all 4.
weddings?
He's my best and oldest friend, and he got married right near my studio, so it wasn't
But
hard to go to the.
I get stuck
Town
on the
hall
4
in the
weddings
city.
part. That's a dyed in the wool romantic. Someone that
Yeah.
gets married 4 times. Like
Yeah.
they're not thinking with their right brain. They're totally thinking.
No,
No?
he's very logistically minded, this guy. But his wife was Italian, so they got married in Italy at this like fucking amazing like villa. It was so cool. And then they lived in New York, so they did New York, and then they had the the town hall or city hall,
Right.
just an official logistic.
Anyway.
But anyway, the thing I'm what's occupying my mind right now. I keep going. Do you ever you ever watch the Adam Curtis documentaries, like Hypernormalization,
Nope.
Century of the Self? Damn.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, his premise
Yeah.
is that you have all of this leadership. This probably beginning after World War II.
Okay.
You have all of this leadership, this political leadership, that does that has all these. It's not just political leadership. Anyway, the idea is like for the past like 20 years, nothing has changed. I mean, and I look at videos
That
from
were stale.
2004,
Yeah.
and I would say since 2008, nothing's really changed. I mean, there's little tiny things change. Like the phones get a tiny bit better, but there's no
Jump. There's no leap. There's no leap.
There's no like revolution.
But how? What do you mean? 2008, wasn't it 7 or 8 when the? No, I guess it was 5 when the iPhone came out.
2007.
7. Okay.
Yeah.
And that to me has been a pretty significant shift in modern culture. I don't necessarily feel for the better. Well, this is coming from some. I mean, don't you see it? Don't you see that everyone's got neck problems?
I guess what I'm getting at is progress.
Oh,
Like that's just that's just a continuation of what's going on, right? And
Yeah.
it's just, this is Adam Curtis's idea. It's just that they've gotten very, very more efficient at it. The companies who own all of the
Mhm.
distribution stuff, they're getting example he gives is that there's he said that after I think it was Brexit, right? That was a totally divisive
Mm-hmm.
thing. There was a guy, like a blogger or something, and on Facebook, he had been like, I don't know, let's say he had been pro Brexit.
Right.
And then he tried to go and get opinions of the anti Brexit people, and he couldn't get Facebook to show it to him.
Oh, right.
Even though it was
Yeah.
half the
Yeah.
country.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just the
Yeah.
algorithms and the machinery of it were so, and
Mm-hmm.
like that is,
Yeah.
that's
Dividing.
that's what's happening to all of us. But running water, the
Yeah.
jet,
Yeah. Yeah.
the railway, the
Highway
nuclear,
systems. Yeah.
a bomb, the
Yeah.
nuclear power,
Yeah.
the discovery of petroleum, the internal combustion engine. We've had these things. These things are just, they're fucking lame. They're not that great.
But
I can hail a cab with it.
no, what
All
I
this
mean,
stuff that's
I don't think
already
they're
been
great.
there.
I don't mean
All
in
this stuff
progress.
that's already been
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You can now do with this.
Yeah.
But all the stuff that you can do with this, there's nothing revolutionary
I
that you
agree.
can do with this.
Yeah.
It's all the stuff you could always like look up song lyrics.
Yeah.
But now you can do it with this. I don't know. It's just kind of a letdown.
I feel like when I got my first laptop,
Yeah.
and I'm a curious person by nature. I know you are too.
Yeah.
The fact that I could at any time and anywhere, no matter what I was doing, pull out my laptop and find the information I was looking for, to me, I've said many times that it changed my life because I could work when I was in a mood to work where I wanted to work, and find out and research and educate myself. And that made a huge shift. The phone is just an evolved version of that.
Yeah.
Where I want to know the answer immediately. But I feel like its direct connection to people's brain, it's not necessarily progress for the common man, but for these corporate companies and entities to reach people and to constantly be literally in their pocket at all times, ready to extract from them or put into them whatever they want, is a pretty significant thing. And maybe it hasn't changed since then. Nothing's changed since then, but it has, because even social media, I mean, when I went back to school as an adult, and I had to have Facebook. That was a school thing, right? You had to have a Facebook account so they could assign you things.
Yes.
So I had an early one. You had to have an EDU account or EDU email address to get a Facebook account, right? And I did. So I was an early adopter, but I just saw it as, I didn't see it as anything socially connecting. But now, that was before they were really monetizing it with ads. And then as soon as ads came in, the whole thing's corrupt. And now you're right. Like, to turn it another direction so that I could see more conservative minded perspectives. It takes a real effort to find anything.
It'll gradually go there if you steer
You
it.
click one thing.
You know how there's all these knockoff? There's like so there's the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah.
And then there's like knockoff people who just clip it.
Yeah.
And then they use
Yeah,
the
all,
Joe.
all of them.
There's
Yeah.
tons of that.
Yeah.
I just went through this morning for like 10 minutes and just, do not send me more content from this channel. Do not send me more content from this channel for all the knockoff ones that were in
You think you'll notice a difference?
my queue. I don't know. But
I
I'm just
can't give
wondering.
it.
Some of them sound like robots.
Yeah.
I was listening to a Douglas Murray interview, and and there was like narration summing up what he had just said.
know.
In like he was
But
doing
and does it 4 or 5 times.
yeah,
Right, in different words, to keep you locked in, to keep your eyes glued to it, so they can get more ad
He
revenue.
just said that. Why
Yeah.
are you saying that
Oh, it's
now
BS.
less succinctly than this guy who's like a master of communication? But I just think, I don't know. I think the thing that we like, fundamentally, one of the things that we do is that by being in touch with the visceral world, right? That I don't know. I think I have a better perception. Maybe it helps me understand that no, things really aren't different. Things
Yeah,
are getting
I see what you're
worse.
saying.
More things are breaking.
Yeah.
More like, but I was talking to Braxton about this, who was born in 2000, and basically the whole trajectory of our lives until maybe 2008, right? Everything because we started in the 70s when it was like oil embargo and everything
Hmm.
was. I remember the playground. I remember the 70s. I was
Yeah,
4 years old. I was 5 years
I
old in the
remember it too.
70s.
Yeah,
Um, the playgrounds were like the paint was peeling off of them, and all the sort of the blacktop everywhere was just like that, like
yeah,
crumbled
yeah.
blacktop, and and it just everything kind of got better and better and better and better,
It's
and
true.
then you got to the early 2000s, and there was all this weird like there was all this super financing of everything, and
Hmm.
things got like annoyingly better,
Yeah,
like Starbucks and all of these things kind of just like and everything was clean and perfect. And now and since probably 2008, that was probably the high water mark.
yeah.
Like when you go to Target now, and this is Target, when you go to Target now, the linoleum on top, or the formica on top of the counter, it's like the veneer has worn down
I think it's because of where you
to the
live. Because where
masonry.
I live, Austin, a city of progress,
Yeah,
it's all new.
it's all new
Everything's
there.
new. There's not much
Or
worn
maybe
down.
Texas is anomalous. I've lived
Even
in New York and LA,
yeah,
and so those are the big crown jewels of America. But Austin is where,
new. We have new
maybe,
highways. We have new
yeah.
transportation systems. We have new. I mean, hell, they're tearing down our convention center in the downtown LA. That's only like 20 years old. They're
Mm.
tearing down, putting a new one up, a bigger one, better one. Right. The progress that I have seen where I live has been. I mean, yes, I see that when I travel. What you're talking about depends on where you are. Depends on the country you're in. If
But
you're,
also, you drive across this country, you stop just about anywhere New
it's
Mexico
the
that you
same.
haven't heard of. And
Yeah.
it's like I stopped somewhere and stayed in New Mexico on the way back from you. And it was, I went to the gas station and I was like, this is hopeless.
Oh
This
yeah,
place
yeah.
is hopeless.
This isn't coming
I
up.
think the guy who was working at the gas station, I think he had like, I don't know what the correct term is, but I
Right.
think he had like a mental, he was like not, he didn't have, he had like a it was 80 IQ or something.
The
Like,
situation seemed dire.
yeah, it was just
Right.
then
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
town was that.
So where is this? And this is what I'm thinking is like, okay, is your most popular video the fourth turning video?
Yes.
So that's
And it's the most anomalous.
well,
It's
hold
not like the
on. This is
others.
what I was thinking. You know, I can get into the story of how that came. It was all my wife sent it to me.
Hmm.
I watched it, and I'll admit that as I watched it, this is an interesting story. I didn't latch onto you as a personality yet.
Right.
That came later, but it was a really interesting thought. Where are we on? First of all, in the fourth turning, where are we in that right now?
Okay, so I can tell you where we are. Oh, I have a chart like in here
You
that I can
still
pull down, but it's too involved to do it.
okay? I
Um,
remember the drawing.
yeah, but okay, so this is a very visual thing for me.
We can come back to
So
it if
you
you want.
have, I have the notes for this. No, I'll just draw it. So the fourth turning has this. It has its segment. The fourth turning has its segments too. And let me just see if I can remember these off the top of my head, and I'll go backwards. And so it's something like this, this. There's like 5 eras, maybe something like this. And the first one is called. So this would be 2008. And the first one is called. Okay, where I think we are right now, and is there's something called the regeneracy,
Hmm.
right? And that's when the country. It's after the country divides, and then no. It's the country's scattered,
Right.
and then a regeneracy like groups the country into into two sides.
Right.
So
Civil War
mm,
was what was the last?
no,
No,
no, because
really.
that's its own fourth turning. I'm talking about within the fourth
With ours.
turning.
Oh, got it. Got it.
So
Got it.
you
Sorry.
have
All
four
right.
turnings,
Yeah.
and the fourth is the crisis, and the crisis has its schedule.
Right. Right.
And so the first thing is like was the financial crisis. That was
Right.
like what marked the beginning of
Oh
the
eight,
fourth turning.
summer of oh eight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the first regeneracy was the election of Donald Trump. And the first regeneracy of the last crisis was the election of FDR. Now, it's not always an election,
Right.
but it
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
happens to be
Right.
those two. And then you have the second regeneracy, which for the last one was the New Deal stuff, right? And for us, we don't know what it is.
Still.
And then you have something called the consolidation, and that's what brings all the country together, or the sides, like in this case of the Civil War.
Yeah.
That's what brings the sides together. But like the last one was the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
So that's when everyone was like,
Sorry.
because you have to understand, like in that era leading up to that day, it was just as divided as it is now. You had Pinkertons fighting and beating and shooting and killing, workers at factories
Right.
who were like going on strike trying to get like labor deals because it
Right.
was the Depression.
Yeah.
So you had just as much. You had like gnarly animosity between like between management and labor, and we've always had our racist shit in America. And after Pearl Harbor, everyone was together. What do we got to do to get this? What do we got to do to get this thing going?
Side note,
Yeah.
my grandfather was in Pearl Harbor
No shit.
and was one of the few planes that got off the ground. He was a tail gunner.
No kidding.
Yeah, there was a few planes that got off the ground. He was one of them. He was shot. He lived. He was shot in the ass, I think.
Wow.
And lived. Yeah, lived through it. Anyway, but like
Badass.
what made him what he was. He passed away of lung cancer from smoking. But I remember this strength, this silent strength out of this guy, and I wish I was only I was preteen or maybe even pre-10 when he passed away. I'm trying to remember what year it was.
Yeah.
But I didn't get to know him as a person, as an adult, right? I just knew him as this figure. But I always wonder, like, what would that have been like? What must that have been like?
Those were the elders when we were kids, and that's
Yeah.
that was who the country had been built by when we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
And the people alive now and the young people think that they live in that country. They think that they are them. They think that America is those guys still. And it's just, we are not that right now.
No,
we
hell
just
no.
are not. And I don't know.
That's
It's like,
80 something years ago.
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it's a lifetime ago. No, there's like a couple of those guys even are alive from that period, right?
They're all in their,
It's like a handful.
hundreds now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know, but I remember that now. I remember when I was reading your book report on the fourth turning, is what
Yeah.
I call it. Thinking, what is the catalyst going to be? Is it going to be that we get a nuclear bomb dropped on something from Korea or Iran, or what's going to happen? Because it seems like it seems logical to believe that someone's going to take a step that's going to unite us, right? We're going to be like, all right, well, I might hate you, but I hate them a lot worse.
It's impossible to predict, but it won't be surprising when it happens. If God forbid, if it happens. I mean,
So I have this conversation with my wife constantly, where some anxiety can build in over the worries about crime or the environment and all these things. And it's like, you have to look at things. One of my favorite classes in university was statistics, was learning the power of numbers and learning that trends, specifically societal trends, are macro. They're not micro, right? And what I mean is, you have to, if you look at it with a macro lens, if you look at it really, really closely, it's scary as shit. But if you look at it on the whole, society, there's never been a better time than now, right? And we've all heard this in a million podcasts and a million different people and statisticians and other people that have said this, that we've never been wealthier, health has never been better, blah, 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 blah. But we're headed for a dead end because the resources of the planet, it's the powers that be, it's all finite, a wall. And I'm not educating you on this. I've heard, hell, I probably learned some of this from you, is thinking about the fact that the wealthy are getting so wealthy that eventually, at some point, people are going to start believing the truth, which is that they're not going to take care of you. And in fact, I've had an awakening partially because of you in my whole life. We're the same age, but you know who first opened my eyes to the fact that I was, and by the way, I've never publicly said anything at all to anyone about my political stance, but I'm liberal as shit. And the reason I'm liberal is because I think being from Texas, I grew up where everyone was Republican. My dad was an oil man. My mom was more of a liberal. My dad, for sure, my mom was, and my dad was was, you know, he voted Republican every single time. Hell, I met George W. Bush. Like, these are people that were in my circle. I saw David Cross.
The comic? Yeah.
We have this in common, our appreciation for comedians that I think are actually spokesmen for culture, right? They're the ones that they could be the red herring, so to speak, right?
They're the philosophers.
There's philosophers.
Yeah.
And we have, by the way, remind me to tell you my story about Tom Segura recently. So I watched David Cross, and the shit he was saying with his sarcastic tone of blah, 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 that's so absurd, was spot on. Like, meaning talking about W eating dead Jew babies and shit like this.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is so absurd. But then you're like, there's a reality to that. No, that's not true. He's trying to make it into a joke,
Yeah.
but he's also trying to educate his crowd. And it turned me. But I was apolitical, but it made me realize who I was and where I was headed. And then since then, I'm shocked that anybody could think anything different. Does that make sense? Like, that you could think that, in my mind, if you're liberal minded, and I'm not saying that there isn't some conservative tenets that I find to be attractive, or that I think are worthy, because they are. Even religious. I'm not religious, but I believe that there's great things in religion. But in my mind, if you're liberal minded, you're more concerned about other people than I'm sorry, I put it differently. You are concerned about other people and you care about other people. If you're conservative minded and you've decided you care about you and you alone. And the part that I'll give you credit for is just a few weeks ago, and we had the conversation about the 48 laws of power. I downloaded the audiobook. I got in the shower, let it start to play, and I didn't get through the preface before I had chills. Because I was like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. I'm a total moron. Because, again, I tend to think in the larger scale about people. But what that is talking about is how individuals behave and how individuals navigate, control, manipulate, and gain power or relinquish power with intention. And I've never been that way. I've never thought intentionally about how I'm doing that. And if I have, it was just instinctual. So I heard some of it in myself I didn't like. But the parts that were eye-opening is to think this is how people are. And if you're not paying attention to it, it's gone on for thousands and thousands of years, then maybe you're not doing right by your family and those that are part of your sphere by not paying attention to this, or you're disrespecting your friends in behaviors that maybe you shouldn't. Sorry, like,
it's strange to say the liberals and because I just think it's like, well, the left brain is this, the right brain is that, but it's like, no, you need both.
So you're still stuck on that.
You have to have both. Like, this isn't my idea, but the left invents the world and the right runs it. You know what I mean? Like, without the conservative people, there's no electricity going to your house. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no running water. There's no.
I know this is gonna be a touch point when I said that.
I'm just talking fundamentally. I'm not talking political parties. I'm just talking about
right.
People are just kind of wired.
But you don't think that. Well, okay. What I'm really talking about is I think that today, what people are trying to teach, I think the extremists on the right are trying to teach the people that are voting for them are tenets that are entirely self-centered, instead of thinking. I mean, even these churches, what do they call them? The churches for economic prosperity preaching. You heard of this? Where they're preaching that Jesus wants you to be wealthy, and it's okay that poor people have nothing and are starving. And I feel like that's like manipulating things just to fit their own standards of having mansions and private jets and a huge place and their own
egos. The left
egos.
is richer than the right. The liberals have more money than the right does in America now. It used to be the other way.
Is that a fact?
That's a fact. That's a fact, because Bezos and Musk and those guys swung it all that way. And
wait, they're not right?
Stulberg, no.
I thought I'm okay with this as getting an education.
Yeah.
But it seemed to me like Elon is now like,
maybe he's a little bit conservative.
and Bezos is not.
I don't think so.
You talk about some blind statements coming out of Bezos, like when he did that rocket launch thing and he's thanking all of his employees for making it possible for him to
Mm.
do that. I understood maybe the intention behind it, but the like the coarseness of it was like, hey, thanks for peeing in a bottle so I could go to space. Is kind of what it was.
Is it that bad?
It,
Oh, because you have to.
Amazon employees.
I don't know. I think a lot of that stuff's exaggerated. I think
These are larger social
I
questions
don't
that
think
we
you
won't
have to
answer.
work as hard at Amazon as you do if you're working for me, or if you're working for Tom Sachs, or if you're self-employed.
This is where I
I
flip
don't think
back.
it's anywhere
Yeah.
near, because I see like the people that I could see. Okay, it's very hard for the people, maybe a lot of the people who are not in good physical shape that he is employing. I'm sure it is hard for them to like get to the
Yeah.
bathroom and stuff, but it's like that's kind of on you.
Well,
You need to take care of your
this is
body.
where I flip back. As I'm saying,
Yeah,
I understand tenets of both sides,
yeah,
and I don't, I work hard, and everyone around me, they better work hard too,
yeah,
or it's done. And honestly, one of the biggest struggles for me as an employer is accepting the fact that people won't work as hard as you,
yeah.
or that they have a hard time keeping up. And even the Tom Sachs thing,
Mm.
I clearly understand that anybody that had complaints about that, more than likely, just in my experience, more than likely, they were unrealistic with their expectations, because if you're going to go work for an artist, a fine art artist who cares very much about detail, perfection, and his vision,
Yeah.
it's not going to be easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it. It's going to be difficult. It's got to be a grinder,
Yeah.
right? If personalities, and I don't want to compare myself to Tom Sachs, but I have creative visions, and that sort of personality and that sort of push and that sort of drive means it's going to be difficult. Because if it was easy, then anybody could do it,
Mm.
right? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
there might be people that take a paintbrush and put one stroke on the canvas and it's done. And that seems simple, but might also be that it took them 30, 40 years to perfect
Yeah, like
that stroke.
Picasso.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like he could draw those doves, but it took him like 40 years to
Yeah.
get it right.
Yeah, right.
you
But
know,
I didn't mean to get you off
No,
on
I just think
the political part of it. I don't even
that
mean it in a political.
both sides are the very powerful and the very rich on both sides are equally culpable for.
I agree with that.
And I don't even blame. I just think it's an ability to capture the political system that's supposed to be people led and be serving the people's interest. And the thing when I say nothing has changed, I mean for like the rest of us, nothing has really changed. And maybe it's gotten just a little bit worse. It's deteriorated a little bit. Like I'm reading this book right now called Second Class, about the American working class.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that in 1976, I think, the per year cost of healthcare was $164,000, I think, per person. This is like out of pocket that you have to
Mm-hmm.
pay. And that, like in 2020, it was $12,000. Even if you don't adjust for inflation,
Yeah.
it's still insane,
Yeah. Yeah.
100-fold. And has the healthcare system gotten 100-fold better? No, it's gotten a little bit worse.
Yeah.
And
But why is that?
why is it
Why has
worse?
it gotten worse? No, causal. Like why do you think it has?
I think it's because we look at this period of 1947 to, let's say, 1980, or maybe it was a little bit before that, where it was this period of like people working in factories could could afford to send their kids to Ivy League colleges, could afford to to own their own homes and own their own cars, could afford to go on vacations,
Mm-hmm.
could afford to have decent health care, food, dental, whatever.
Yeah. Buy a
Right?
house.
And so kind of everyone, if you went and worked and went and worked without having to kill yourself, you also got the 40-hour work week. We look at that period as normal and we say, oh, this is how it is. This is how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So people complain, I'm working too hard. Or I work too many hours. You're working too many hours in relation to that era
Yeah.
of American history, right? That was the least amount of disparity of wealth too. Like we took care of the soldiers, and then that when they returned from World War II, gave them super low loans to buy houses,
Mm.
low rate loans to
Yeah.
buy houses,
Mm.
gave them free college education. And that blip is just a very unusual blip in the course of human
Mm.
existence. It's maybe
Mm-hmm.
happened twice.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it happened in the Renaissance too, or
Right.
something. There was some blip like that. So I think what has happened subsequent to that is that um, it's it probably begins with Reagan, and then it's like hyper accelerated by Clinton. So that one guy's a Republican, one guy's a Democrat. But when there was a book that came out in 1972, and it was called The Coming of the Post-Industrial Age by Daniel Bell.
Mm-hmm.
I've read this book, and so did like Congress read this
Yeah.
book. And the premise of this book was like, yes, this is America. Look what we've built. It's incredible. And this is 1972. And he says this was all done with industry.
Mm-hmm.
The next era that we are going to be leaders in, what everyone's going to be doing now is post industry, which is the information age, which is what we got.
Yeah, for
Now,
sure.
the problem with that is not everyone is suited. And I would say too small of a minority of people are suited to sitting at a desk at a computer in an office.
Yeah.
But all the jobs, especially with NAFTA, all of these manufacturing jobs, all of this stuff that built the company, that it was allowed to pay, with organized labor, the pay and the benefits were such that we could have a nice functioning America where people could buy houses and there was lots of money sloshing around a lot of people. That all got offshored. We paid pennies on the dollar for labor.
Yep.
And then all those people got screwed, and all the big corporations came in and they employed at minimum wage. And now we're on generation 3 or so of the fallout from that. And it's just, I don't know if you've seen these Trank videos in Philadelphia. This drug called Trank,
No.
which I don't know what that's short for, maybe tranquilizer,
Yeah.
but like, we had meth like 20 years ago, which was like hyper and you could do lots of work. And
Yeah.
Trank is like the opposite of that. It's as if it kills you. So you can go, there's live cameras on Kensington Street in Philadelphia, and you can see these people.
Oh, the people that are doubled over.
And it
Yeah.
looks like the zombie apocalypse
Yeah.
movies. And these are people, and this is like, and then there's the opiate crisis and fentanyl, and this is what's killing way more people than COVID, which we shut the whole world down for.
Mm-hmm.
And these are people who don't have they don't have the blessings, or however you want to say it, or the advantages that some of us who are able to not go down that route have.
Yeah.
And these are the people that maybe aren't as strong. Maybe these are the people who could have been served by a factory.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like nobody wanted to work in the damn factories.
Yeah.
Even though you're making whatever, the equivalent of $45 an hour, right? Pressing,
Yeah. Steel.
steel,
Yeah, sheet metal.
operating a thing.
Yeah.
You still, it's like you're not, life isn't destroyed. You're going to sacrifice
Yeah.
your work life
Yeah.
to misery. You're going to be miserable, but your kids aren't going to be miserable. You're going to have your house. There's not going to be drugs everywhere. And I just think like neoliberal policies, I think in America is what happened. And then, we're to blame. We're to blame. We haven't come up with anything. And a lot of us don't work hard enough. And a lot of us don't work smart enough. And, we didn't continue making the sacrifices that those people, that fought World War II and survived the Depression, that they made on a huge scale so that we could.
Well, I think about this too, and the disillusionment, right, that must have
Yeah.
occurred because of that. And then, of course, how people are now existing really in video games and in
Yeah, there you
entertainment
go.
media. And, like
Yes.
half my guys, it's funny, we're sitting here making a podcast. And one of the things that annoys me is like when people are just sitting around listening to podcasts all day while they're supposed to be working.
Wait, they don't work and listen at the same time? Because I do that. I'm guilty.
If you ask me
I'm
to
working and-
if you ask me to dig a ditch,
Yeah,
sure.
Right.
But if you ask me to, I don't know, fix a motorcycle, just tune a carburetor, it's probably, unless I'm just doing the cleaning part,
Yeah.
right? It's going to be a fairly difficult task to do really well, effectively, efficiently, quickly
You think?
for me. for me. I mean, I literally on the way here was listening to music with no lyrics,
Right.
so I could focus on my driving, focus on my thought processes, contemplate my week. Like for that reason,
Wow.
I have to shut down
Yeah.
any external real entertainment
Mm.
to be the best version of me and to do my best work.
Mm.
Maybe I'm weird. I mean, I'm definitely ADHD, but I feel like how do I expect my workers to do really great work if they're thinking about something else while they're doing it? They need
Mm.
to be focused. They need to be in that zone. I mean, don't you know a flow state? You know when a zone is
It
right? No?
depends what I'm doing,
Yeah.
but like and this might just be like the drug addict in me, but I have so many micro chores, like late manual labor micro chores that I have to do. Like to
Mm-hmm.
set up that repair station, I had to like take this desk apart, da, 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 wrap the thing, put it in the bag, blah, 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 like all this labor. And if I'm not listening to a podcast, I just have like
Noise.
no, I just have some song lyric going over and over in my head. Me, 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 me. Now I won't sing it because I don't want to put like I don't want to give people an
Yeah.
earworm.
Yeah.
But I will just have, and I mean for weeks. For weeks, I will be like, you know, that movie Inside Out. They get that like there's like a chewing gum
Yes. Yeah.
song
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
gum or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's stuck in their head, and it like that will just that's what will happen to me. Is I'll just get this, and then the podcast is just there's like a warm conversation happening in the background that I'm not really listening to, but it's like silencing this.
I think that's just a more extreme version of my own experience. Like I just meaning when I finally like doubled down to finish university and like decided I wasn't going to get anything less than an A any longer.
Yeah.
The way I did it was coffee, music with no lyrics, coffee shop.
Okay.
There'd be action going on around me, but
Yeah.
I'm not participating in it. So it felt like other people were doing stuff.
Yeah.
Music to kind of note so that I wouldn't be distracted by a conversation. And then periods of time, just focus for 30, 45, an hour as much as you
Yeah.
can, and then take a break and then come back to it. But like I had to figure out methods for how to deal with my own ADHD. But yeah, I get really distracted if I hear. Anyway,
But that's a different kind of work.
but what I was really thinking about
Yeah.
and where I was headed was like, I mean, do you think people? Do you think that modern like him, if he's 24 years old, he doesn't know a time when he couldn't just listen to a podcast or engage with the internet or like are we smarter as a result? Are we more effective? Are we more like what are we other than more distracted from our own thing? And then what you and I are talking about are like I feel like there's a privilege in even having the knowledge that you have. Sure, books have been around a really long time, right? You've been reading books and you're well read. I like that. I always get an education. I hang out with people like you.
Yeah. Books are a blessing.
But you can
Like,
access
public library in every single town.
but not everybody's accessing this information that's useful.
Yeah.
They're just watching, and I respect the entertainment value of Mr. Beast, but what are they learning? What do you? I mean, are you just engaging your brain to keep it engaged while someone pillages your pocketbook?
Well, that's different. That's entertainment. That's a different thing. That's entertainment. Entertainment is good, especially when people have horrible, miserable lives. And that's the thing that gets them out of it.
What about gamers?
That's
What
fine.
about gamers where they spend more time in the virtual world than they do
Some
in
of
the?
them are destroying their lives. Some of them are probably almost, you could say almost all of them that are like gaming addicts who spend, that's what they're like. I know people, I have family members who are in that situation. And like, yeah, they're destroying their life.
Or is it just as good to just be checked into that and there's no different reality? I mean, I don't know. Like, these are just questions. I have no answers. I feel like, what's his name? Fucking Tucker Carlson. Is it because, like,
Yeah.
is this better? I don't know. I wonder about these things now that I have a daughter, and I think, man, do I really want her to have a screen? Do I want her to be checked into video games? I had video games when I was young.
Yeah.
I didn't become addicted. Like I had an Atari and all that, and
Those games sucked.
I would just maybe that's what it was. Is this they weren't immersive enough?
Yeah.
How many times could I watch the little guy jumping over the thing right before I was bored? But it wasn't long.
How many people do you know that were born in 1975 that are addicted or give a shit about video games?
Yeah, not many.
Almost none. Although Rogan loves video games.
Oh, does he?
He says
He's a
he
gamer.
can't play them. He can't have like World of Warcraft or whatever because he would just get addicted and that would be it. The whole day would be gone. He would just into it because
He's a weird individual.
yeah.
I don't think I could
But I'm just
hold
saying,
Rogan
he's
on
our
it.
age.
Yeah, yeah, for
He's
sure.
older than us.
For
He's
sure.
10 years older than us, but he does give a shit about. And then that guy, Brian Redband's same. He's like a
Yeah.
big video game guy. But they're successful artists. They're very hyper successful artists. They can do whatever the fuck they want. They're
Right.
not the regular.
Yeah.
They don't count. They kind of
Yeah,
take them out
exactly.
of the data pool, really.
They wouldn't be where they were if they were normal people.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't want to steer the whole conversation, but I do want to
Well,
get
you're
back
supposed
to.
to, that's why
Okay.
we're
What I do want to get back to is asking you about, because we had a really short conversation about the 48 laws of power. Are you
Okay.
comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, I was just checking how much time we had. We had plenty of
Okay.
time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm totally comfortable
Okay.
talking about that.
Can
I
we
think
talk about what
everybody
I
should be
did?
that should be a course in high school.
Can we talk about what I did?
Yeah. What'd you do?
I have told no what I did to you.
Oh, please. You have this guilt thing. I was.
No. I don't want to talk about it guilty.
okay.
I'm not trying to. No, we're good. We're 100%.
Okay.
Well, I have told the story to multiple people
Okay.
since then. It was only like a month ago,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Where we had a thing or an event that was about you, and then there was something else, and I don't even know if I need to tell this part of the story, but I think it's good to have context where you and I are talking about something we'd really like to do together. We think could be an important business model, so to speak, right? And you said, I'm going to go meet with this guy. He's rather important. And I was like, I want to go. And you're like, no, because you might outshine the master or something like that. And I went, the fuck are you talking about? And you said, well, you broke the first law of the 48 laws of power. And I was like, what are you on about? Right? Like, I'm just in my brain. I'm like, I don't know. And now I'm thinking there was an infraction and, our friendship, and what did I do? And then you said, you need to read this book and trust me, it'll help. And I said, well, I didn't mean to do. And you said, I know you didn't have any intention. Essentially, you let me off. You're like, we wouldn't be friends if I thought you intentionally tried to do anything like that.
Yeah.
But no, you should be aware of this or whatever. So I immediately wrote it down and then downloaded the book. And as I was getting into the understanding of it, it was shocking for me to think about someone consciously manipulating any situation or other people to gain power and leverage over that other person. And that makes me feel really vulnerable and naive and stupid.
And no, it just means you never lived and worked in Manhattan for more than however. Did you ever live there and work?
No, I never lived there, but
Yeah.
I spent time
Manhattan beats Manhattan, and this guy was LA based in the movie industry, and that's why he has that.
Right.
When you go out into the general world, in your little thing, wherever you are, I don't even know if that's true. People.
Oh no,
I
it's
don't even know if that's
no, no, what
No,
what I
think
found
that
shocking.
48 laws of power. People, they're subconsciously. They are. This is just something that this guy figured out.
But it
They're
applies-
subconsciously doing those things.
It-
the
yeah.
people who rise to power.
It applies universally. I have to think.
I
It
think
applies.
it applies
If you're the guy out there right now working on the road,
Yeah,
there's someone on his crew
yeah.
that is trying to gain power
If
and
you're
leverage.
the Dalai Lama, Yes.
Yes.
he just coincidentally through cleansing his soul, he just is like he can transcend those 48 laws.
Oh, you don't think someone's out to step on his neck too?
Definitely. There
Yeah.
definitely
That's
is.
what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone is, and it just seems obvious after I started to get into
Yeah.
it, and I actually asked a couple of my guys to read it. I bought them the book or whatever, and they're just like,
Yeah.
and I think I had heard of it back when it came out, and so I think I was at the same stage. I was like, this is stupid. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
There's no law and power, and none of that's real. And as you get older, you become more wise, or you've been stepped on enough that you start to see it. And I mean, I literally didn't fit in the corporate culture. Why did I get fired? Because I had no clue that navigating it could be a conscious thing. It wasn't just do the right thing, do a great job, excel. You will get the raise, and you will get the no. You need to make sure you shake the right hands, kiss the right babies, and never
It's
question.
not necessarily a negative thing. It's just this is the pool of sharks that
Yes.
you are swimming in, and you cannot avoid this pool. This is reality, okay? And just be aware of these things.
I have
It's not like in order to be the king, you have to do all of these
No.
things, which it also is that. But like, I don't know. The best is to listen to Robert Greene in interviews talk about it.
I went and watched podcasts where he
Yeah,
talked about it,
it's so
and he
great.
said, and then he, because some of the laws contradict one another. He's like,
Hmm.
these aren't meant to be laws that you have to. These aren't rules you follow. These are just tenets of lessons you should be conscious of,
Yes.
so that you know how to recognize what they are in those moments and how you should behave. Which is exactly what you were telling me. You're like,
Yeah.
don't break the first law next time, right?
Yeah.
Don't break that law,
Yeah.
which is don't outshine the master, which sounds so terrible. Like it sounds like some sort of cult thing,
Yeah.
or even like, no, but it's not. Meaning it's just the person in the situation who's supposed to be slightly more important that day or that moment or that minute.
Okay, the way that
You know.
the way okay, so um Dave Chappelle has the same sentiment in one of his most recent brilliant stand.
I already know what it is.
Except the way he puts it, he doesn't say "Don't outshine the master." The way he says it is that sometimes you have to have. Sometimes everyone is in your dream, and sometimes you have to have the humility to understand that you are in someone else's dream,
Yeah.
because he's used to being in. He's used to everyone is in his dream because
Yeah.
he's a big.
Yeah.
He's a big superstar. But then he said he went to like, was it Kid Cudi, ASAP Rocky?
Yep. Yep.
Was it ASAP
Yeah,
Rocky?
yeah.
He went to a party and ASAP Rocky was like, "Yo, man, I want you to be in my video," and it was like Chappelle was realizing that at this thing is like, no, Dave Chappelle is not the master in this situation.
No.
Kid Cudi or not Kid
Yeah.
Cudi.
Lil Nas X.
Sorry,
That's who it
Lil
was.
Nas
Yeah.
X. He was the master.
Yeah.
And I was attempting to outshine. I have a friend who I can't. There, if I give any clues, let's just say he's a very successful television writer,
Yeah.
and who has like conceived and written some of the most famous and popular television series.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Or streaming series,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I told him, and I was like, and he's also used to work in politics, but I said, and I just like threw out a reference to 48 Laws of Power, and he was just like, "What?" And I was like, "Wait a second, you haven't
What?
read this book?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "No," and I was just like, "You don't know?" And I was just like, 48 Laws of Power. He's like, "No," and I said, "First law is never outshine the master." And he said to me, he's like, "Oh my God, really?" He's like, "I used to do that in meetings with big executives."
Bad idea.
At like, Disney or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'd be pitching, and I was I was collaborating with someone, and that person was the bigger star, and that person got the meeting, and I would be the funny, jokey
Yeah.
center of attention, and it would just it like hurt his
Yeah.
career.
Oh yeah, or worse, challenge the wrong person. I mean, there's so many laws within it that like know who you're dealing with. Don't just assume they're one thing or another. Another thing you mentioned, the Chappelle thing. I have referenced this dozens of times in conversations with people. I mean, dude, I've suffered a bit. I tried to hire a CEO for my own company, thinking he was going to have the magic sauce, and he would have slit my throat and anybody else's for $1. Like it. There was no sense of morality whatsoever or appreciation for what had come before. It was more like how to navigate, take care of me.
You.
Right. Well, the tenant from Chappelle's show that I watched, I remember it also kind of gave me goosebumps. He was talking about the 3-card Monte.
Yeah.
And how the guy he realized he'd been conned out of his last $20. He had a date, and he was really, really young, and he's like really upset. And he watches these guys, realizes they're all in on it. Mm-hmm. The guys that were winning money were in on it. Mm-hmm. And the next hapless, person that walks up, victim, he says, no, don't do it. They're all in on it. They're going to take your money. And the big guy grabs him and pulls him up by his collar and says, you can see the fear in his eyes, and he thinks the guy's going to kill him. And the guy goes, "Don't ever come between a man and his meal."
Yeah.
And you realize this guy is not just taking care of himself and his food, but he has a family to feed. And just because there are going to be lambs to the slaughter of this not everything's a con, right? But someone's got to be the lamb.
Yeah.
And that lamb is okay with him because he's going to eat.
Yeah.
And if you stop that lamb from existing or you interfere with his meal, you're in trouble. And of course, what he's referencing is how his agent the studios, everyone was saying, yeah, it's a great contract. You should sign the contract. Who cares if you're giving away your name, your likeness, and you're only going to get a small piece of the pie or none of the pie. You're literally selling all the rights to your songs, to your comedy, to your name to someone else for, well, it's better than the poverty you had before. So good luck.
Yeah.
And then that realization that, which is what he asserts, like sent him into the spiral of like hiding, was thinking the whole world was out to get him. And I've been there. I felt, we've all been there to some degree at some point, right? That everyone is going to get us. And we're all just lambs to the slaughter of things. And once you start to empower yourself, and I'm telling you, thanks to you, some influence that you have given me and some of the things you've opened my eyes to, even if it was in service of you as the master in a situation, has been helping me to recognize that I need to be more conscious about what I do, not only for people that are out to get me, but for my friends, for people that care about me, that want to help me. And not everybody's going to listen when I say read the 48 Laws of Power. I've already figured that out, or other books or other stories, but I think it's useful. And I think, not that I have to move on to this directly, but there's entertainment, and then there's entertainment with value that gives something, right? Yeah. And what I've been stoked about with you and what you're doing is there's redeeming things and lessons that you're sharing with people, even if they're your own experience, and they're not relevant to 95% of the people that watch them. 5% are getting like, oh my God, that's me, that's me, or I feel understood, or I feel some camaraderie with this guy and his experience and his perspectives, and it helps them to move on. And a good friend of mine that you didn't get to meet at the Handbelt Show was there. He's a luminary in the motorcycle world, said to me years ago, there were lots of people that were in the motorcycle business, which is a really small business compared to lots of other businesses, super, super niche of a niche, right? That there were many people in that business that just wanted to get something from it, and they weren't giving anything back. And he goes, no matter what you do, as long as you try to make sure you're giving something back to the people you're taking from, then you can feel good about yourself. And I've tried to stick with that. And I think what you're doing, not that I didn't came here to kiss your butt, but you're giving to people, and that's enough.
Boy, I hope I am giving, because I just feel like I'm trying to provide for my family.
But you are.
But I only know one way to do it.
That's the best case scenario. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. The best case scenario is that while you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of other people too by giving something back. It's redeemable. It's not fart jokes. It's not. Yeah. And I think that every time I watch one of your videos, almost every time anyway, I go, oh yeah, that's something I need to be conscious of, or remember, or be reminded of myself, or hell, I've been there, and that's enough. Then I feel like I'm part of your club. That's why all these people jump on and ask you all these questions. Anyway,
should I? What? I'll read the 48 Laws of Power, just the laws.
Let's do it. Oh God, that's gonna really. We won't get through Law 5.
I have these stashed all over. I'm just gonna read them.
You have them stashed all over that book?
Yeah, I have like.
How often do you read it?
Because I'm always waiting to give them away to people.
Oh.
So here.
I only have the audiobook.
So here's it's like in the table of contents. Okay, Law 1, never outshine the master. Law 2, never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. Law 3, conceal your intentions. Law 4, always say less than necessary. Law 5, so much depends on reputation, guard it with your life. Law 6, court attention at all cost. Law 7, get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Braxton. Law 8, make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. Thanks for driving to Topanga Canyon. Law 9, win through your actions, never through argument. Law 10, infection, avoid the unhappy and unlucky. Law 11, learn to keep people dependent on you. Law 12, use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. Law 13, when asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. Law 14, pose as a friend, work as a spy. Law 15, crush your enemy totally. Law 16, use absence to increase respect and honor. Law 17, keep others suspended in terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Law 18, do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. Law 19, know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. Law 20, do not commit to anyone. Law 21, play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. Law 22, use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. Law 23, concentrate your forces. Law 24, play the perfect courtier. Law 25, recreate yourself. Law 26, keep your hands clean. Law 27, play on people's need to believe to create a cult like following. Law 28, enter action with boldness. Law 29, plan all the way to the end. Law 30, make your accomplishments seem effortless. Law 31, control the options, get others to play the cards you deal. Law 32, play to people's fantasies. Law 33, discover each man's thumbscrew. Law 34, be royal in your own fashion, act like a king to be treated like one. Law 35, master the art of timing. Law 36, disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. Law 37, create compelling spectacles. Law 38, think as you like, but behave like others. Law 39, stir up waters to catch fish. Law 40, despise the free lunch. Law 41, avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. Law 42, strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. Law 43, work on the hearts and minds of others. Law 44, disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. Law 45, preach the need for change but never reform too much at once. Law 46, never appear too perfect. Law 47, do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. Law 48, assume formlessness. All right, let's go to lunch.
I'm down for that.